What's up, guys? Welcome to the Empty Theater Show. I'm your host, Greg Fairbanks. On my left, we have
John Joyner.
And on his left, we have
Sean Hagen.
And joining us for the second/first time,
Sam Frawley. Let's go.
Let's go.
Love it.
So, if you are new to the Empty Theater Show, the concept's pretty simple. 3, sometimes 4 people kind of get together. Each brings a topic, and we'll talk about one of the topics at least. Sometimes we'll talk about all of the topics. None of us are experts. We're all just kind of trying to make our way in the arts, and it's just kind of like a coffee shop or backstage feel, kind of just for your amusement and for us to bounce some cool ideas off of one another. How's your day going, Michael?
That's great.
Yeah, you seem a little hyper.
No, everything's good, man. Just got off a shift, bartending in the AM.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah.
Sean, you seem less than hyper.
I was like playing death. There is nothing but death. No, it's been a good day, but I got a headache.
Drink some water.
I took some ibuprofen.
Yeah,
I think
are you hydrated?
No, I feel good.
Okay.
Your mustache is really coming
Don't
in.
even get me started.
No, I'm serious. No, I mean that genuinely.
Careful, one of the hairs will come out and get you. Yeah, good. Let's move on.
Let's move on. So, Sam, what are you doing in California? Let's talk about that.
I just absolutely hate it here.
Yeah, it's
kidding.
the worst.
It's amazing. I love being here. I am here at the end of a road trip from Seattle down the coast all the way to LA. And
Very cool.
I hit a lot of amazing spots along the way. And now I'm here just chilling for a couple days, doing a little bit of photo work and hanging with the homies in LA.
Nice.
So how soon are you going to get onto National Geographic?
Actually, tomorrow.
Because for everyone who doesn't, the pictures that you took were awe-inspiring. It was honestly, it looked like the front of a national park. No, seriously, it was super.
Oh, sure.
Can we link it? Can we do just one of these where it's like,
Yep.
click here to check out Sam's Instagram feed.
Okay.
Click the link.
7 new followers. I
Subscribe.
hope it's worth it.
And I know for you that's
Exactly.
that's a drop in the bucket, but look,
The least
that's
we
all
can-
we've
the
got.
least we
We've got
can do.
7 viewers.
Dude,
That's all we can
I will
offer.
take what I can get.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
Fuck it.
I'm not picky about it.
Yeah, one of those is my mom, so she might already be following you. Maybe, probably
Is
not.
Cindy on Instagram?
Yeah, she's
Is
a
she
ghost,
really?
though. She doesn't
No.
post. She just follows.
Wait, does your parents do that?
That's not
My
my
dad does
my
that.
mom does
She's
that,
like
yeah.
a ghost follower. She doesn't
Yeah.
even like stuff. She just
No,
like,
she's
scrolls.
just there. She
Yeah.
just is.
Just checking in every
sees
once
it,
in a while.
and that's
Dude,
it.
my parents do that too. It's
Yeah.
very funny.
My
My
parents
mom
are actually-
started to post, but
Yeah.
my dad just straight ghosts.
Man, both my parents are like starting to get pretty active on Instagram.
Oh,
That's
no.
funny. What do they post?
Well, they live like in a little cottage on Cape Cod now, and they just post like beachy stuff, like sailboats and.
Yeah.
Do they show like pictures of like dumpster fires and poor people? Because Cape Cod is, it's a desolate.
Michael always loves to
Terrible.
hate on Cape Cod because he knows it's like just the Achilles heel for me, and I am this close to ending our friendship right now.
So you like Cape Cod then?
It is my favorite place.
Okay. All right.
So
Okay. That's cool.
just watch your back.
Cool.
Cool it.
Don't. You're so lucky Sean's sitting in between us.
Hold me back. Hold me back.
Can't even get to you if I wanted to. There's no way.
Oh man. So speaking of favorite places on Earth, my topic for today was going to be about traveling to different places that inspire you for your art, kind of inspired by what you're going through right now, kind of getting out of Nashville, hitting the road, and just trying to get a refresh. Because I woke up today and was like, man, I feel like I've been in LA for ages, and it's only been 2 months straight since I've left the city. But just wanted to talk about maybe favorite trips you've ever taken out of the city or abroad to kind of inspire yourself. We might have touched on this a little bit before, but that might have been on a different show.
I don't feel like we have.
Yeah.
This feels new to me.
Okay.
Which is funny because we've rehearsed everything that we're about to say at least 3 times today.
Right. This is our
To
final
really
dress.
polish it up. So, but it still feels new to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, I always go back to between my junior and senior year of college, I did a Maymester in London, and that was the most amazing trip. I was a theater major in college, and we got to see plays at the National Theater, and we got to take acting workshops at Shakespeare's Globe. We got to stand like in the Globe and see different plays, and it was just the most incredible trip. And I'd only ever been abroad. I'd been abroad to Canada and I'd been abroad to Russia, but I'd never been abroad to like what felt like a foreign country that was also English speaking. Because for Canada, I'd only ever been into like cabins in Canada, so I've never been to like Toronto or anything like that.
Right.
But it was just a really incredible time, and whenever I think about traveling abroad again, I'm like, man, I would love to go back to London and spend some time.
What was the weirdest thing about going there? What was the thing that you were just like, this isn't right?
That this isn't right?
Yeah. No, I mean, just like generally speaking, like what... Like for me, it was weird, like when I've been to London, it's weird that you have to pay for a bathroom. For me, that was the thing.
I
was
remember
like,
that.
This
That's
is
weird.
that was weird.
Like
Yeah.
almost everywhere.
About Italy.
Not in most places, but in enough to where you see it and you're like, it's a toilet.
It's in some common cafes and coffee shops, isn't
And
it?
to still have the bathrooms be as run down as they
Oh,
were.
yeah.
Paying for, and you're like, well, where's the...
It's
If they were nice, I'd be like, oh, sure, I'll pay for it.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
a butler in there with like a spritz of cologne, and offers you a
Clean
warm
towel.
towel. Yeah.
Like, even to the standard of a West Hollywood bar. Have you been in, or the bathrooms in those
I've
bars
never
where
made
they
it that
have
far.
like, the
I don't-
mints and the gum and the...
I can't do it.
I've done it once.
Yeah, I
You
have
just
been
live
to that.
there.
Way too
You're
much.
just like, all right, guys, you have fun at the bar. I'm gonna be here in the bathroom, just chewing on some bubble tape, having a good time.
So listen to this quote. This was from a while ago. I don't know when it popped in my head. But Craig and I were talking about his topic there, and it's like, I always feel like every 6 months, I probably do it more than that, but getting out of the city just to get a fresh sense of, I don't know, a new atmosphere or something I think really helps as an artist. But here's a quote. I can't think of anything that excites a greater sense of childlike wonder than to be in a country where you are ignorant of almost everything. Suddenly you're 5 years old again. You can't read anything. You have only the most rudimentary sense of how things work. You can't even reliably cross a street without endangering your life. Your whole existence becomes a series of interesting guesses. Bill Bryson.
Nice.
That's cool.
Bill Bryson bringing the heat.
So I think that speaks kind of to what we're talking about here. I'm going to see if I can catch
Is that all? That's it?
That's all you had?
Here's my quote.
That's the.
I'll see you
good.
next topic.
Boy, that sounds like just got off a 4 a.m. shift and has a 4 a.m. shift tomorrow. Is that right?
I remember feeling this way sort of when we lived in Nashville. Do you feel that way living in Nashville now currently? I feel it more in LA because like we were saying before we started recording, just like the weather is always the same and the traffic is always the same, and it can feel very much like you're living in Groundhog Day. Do you feel that in Nashville or not really, or is it just like depend?
There's definitely more like seasonal difference in Nashville. I mean,
Sure.
we still don't get like a lot of snow there, but like there's colder months.
Mm-hmm.
You see the leaves change in the fall, and then the summer's like kind of god awful hot.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's tough. I think when you don't have like all of us are in more of a creative like pursuit, and so if you don't have a job that's super structured, I think that in and of itself kind of like sometimes you do lose track of time easier, just because every day is like kind of like you said, ebbing and flowing a little bit more, But yeah, I mean, it's definitely good to get outside of your routines to stay inspired and creative. It's like it's really easy to just find yourself in a rut if you're doing the same thing over and over again. So, and it might not even be like even leaving the city. It could be taking a different route, like to work. you
Right.
know?
Little things.
Little things like
Going
that.
to a
Mixing
different
it up.
coffee shop one day,
Yeah.
even if that coffee shop doesn't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's crazy how easy it is to fall into like just habits because they just feel comfortable and good,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in a city like LA, there's like it seems like there's infinite options.
Yeah.
Like you could go to a new coffee shop probably every day for like,
At
6
least 4 or
months.
5 years.
Probably
Yeah, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's ridiculous. It's so much. Yeah, I definitely feel like, because we've been in LA for almost,
9 months, 8.
8 or 9 months at this point, and I feel like I've very much gotten into like I know what I'm doing on like a weekly basis, and I could get a routine, especially spending so much time at like Upright Citizens Brigade and having like friends through improv where it's like I work on this during the day, I go to a show at night, I go to improv practice, I write this time, whatever it is, and it can feel I've especially like the last week or so, I've felt kind of like restless about it. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just doing like the same thing over and over. And it can feel like you really just are like a hamster on a wheel. Even though, like if you were to look back, you'd be like, oh, things are progressing. I'm meeting new people and I'm accomplishing new things, and I do have a new perspective. But sometimes you just get like that like just sense of like, ugh. And I think that's like when you need like to take a beach day. Or like go on a hike on a new trail or just something.
Smoke some weed on it.
I think 100%. I think all those things are necessary, but I also I was talking to Craig or Michael someone about this the other day, but
Definitely not.
I think the boredom, that frustration that you feel at times, sometimes I feel like that's when I'm most creative too. And when I feel like writing is when you're in that cafe again, and you just you hit a wall. I feel like sometimes that's when your creativity breaks, and you're like, oh shit, that's exactly what I need to start doing or whatever. You start typing, and it just all flows out. So sometimes I try to strive for that boredom, but then, I think the balance of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. When I was a kid, I was so bored. I would go do stuff like all the time. I just take like a stick out.
You
in
have
the
no
woods
choice, right?
and
You
just
have
swing
so
around.
much time with
Yeah,
your kid.
I can still think of like narratives I invented just
Right.
by myself with like a
Right.
stick in the woods. You just like involve
Yeah,
your friends
absolutely.
in
Back
different
when we
things.
used to have imaginations.
I know, back before we were all conformed by
But
like,
maybe
society.
that says a lot about busy work and trying to busy ourselves with stuff that, I think there's something to be had in that boredom. And
So you're saying like the pressure we all feel to do more sometimes could be
yeah, I think that
counterproductive.
speaks a lot towards anxiety and depression, and a lot of that stuff is the feeling that we have to be doing so much. I think we just are so accustomed to that. But I think that if we would just sit back in that boredom a little bit, you'd find some interesting creativity. Because you'd have no choice. That's what you have to. Right? I think.
Well,
I don't know.
you have your brain literally just
Well,
wants anything to play.
Yeah, I like the use of your word boredom because it's like you're not filling your time with anything. Like, it's so easy to distract ourselves with our phones or just like you said, being busy for the sake of being busy sometimes, it's like I've been finding more and more recently that it's like so important to just have time where you're doing like absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And how tough that is to
It's
convince
hard.
yourself to.
Yeah, but like that is where I think you can have some like really amazing like ideas, creativity, productivity. Probably like when you were in Memphis and you were able to finish the play, there just wasn't anything else for you to do.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was like throwing time away.
Yeah.
I spent hours painting my parents' house, and then in the evenings I would like watch some BBC television with them because they really started getting into like Sherlock and Luther and Father Brown, which is like a pretty phenomenal series if you've never seen it.
Wait, what's Father Brown?
Father Brown, it's delightful. So Mark Williams, who plays Arthur Weasley in the Harry Potter series, is the lead in this detective crime religion thing. So I think he's an Episcopalian father or whatever, and he is pastoring a church, and all the time, every episode, somebody dies, and it's a very small town. And
Sorry, I don't know why I laughed at that. But
No,
every episode, someone dying is kind of
it's
funny.
hilarious because it's like if you were to take like I think the parish is like, I mean, it's like a colloquial like English town,
Sure.
if it's even large enough to be considered like a true town.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like like a city of like township of like 600 people, and like every episode it's like you're just like whittling down the numbers. So it's pretty funny. And I guess as they've like gone into the further seasons, like they've branched out into like other areas, so it's not just like we kill one person from our population and now there's just like two of us here. But he goes around and he essentially just solves crimes, and he has this like he's got like a buddy on the force who's a constable, and he is always telling him like, don't meddle in this, and then he's
they
like,
end up
I
meddling in
meddle,
it.
and then he solves the whole crime, and then it's like, but it's
Nice.
it's just like wholesome. It's like the Great British Bake Off, but in like a crime series.
Okay.
You just put it on and you're like,
Just warm and fuzzy feelings.
That's great.
I love that.
Kooky.
You need shows like that. How long were you in Memphis again?
I was there for 6 weeks, almost 7.
It's a long time.
And so in between, when I finished earlier in the morning, like 10 or 11, and then I would go off and I would write. And I just had nothing but time. And I know the city quite well growing up there, but none of my friends were really there. I didn't really want to like do anything or like go see the sights. It was just like, all right, well, put the head down and write. And one of the things that I tried very hard not to do was to put any sort of stipulations or expectations as to what I was expecting from that, and really just relying on the fact of like, all right, whatever comes out. It's going to be 40 days of writing like this, and somehow at the end of it there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes from this, because each day you could see like where you are in the book, and you're like, all right, I started there and then I wrote 15 different things, or 20 pages, or 2 pages, or I didn't write it all and I was just figuring out like the structure or whatever. So I think having nothing is the best thing to possibly do for that.
How
to help along.
Sam, with photography, how would you like fill your time with something like that? When like would you go to a different town and find someone else to shoot with? Or how would that work for you? Or would you just set photography aside and just like take a day off, maybe take a weekend off or whatever? Because it's not as private.
Just kind of like mixing up.
I guess you could go
routine.
take portraits by yourself, or not portraits, landscapes by yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, a lot of times, like, I'll just go drive around in my car and try to find new neighborhoods or new parts of Nashville that I haven't seen. And even
That's pretty fun.
Nashville's like a small city, especially like when you compare it to somewhere like here in LA. It's very small, but it's got so many little pockets that are like tucked away that like have a lot of personality. And so, honestly, oftentimes just like driving through a new neighborhood, kind of just like getting to the end of a street and deciding, do I want to go left? Do I want to go right? Just like letting myself go for it. Like there have been a lot of times where I've felt pretty inspired by doing that. And I mean, a lot of the photography that I do is more like lifestyle, like location based. So, if you find an area that has more personality and character to it, then that could be like, wow, I have an idea for a shoot with this person and this look in this spot, and just seeing like a location or a car or something like that can totally like spark something up for me. Yeah,
that's awesome.
How much exploring have you done of Los Angeles? I'm curious to hear this.
Honestly, that's one of the things I'm thankful about catering with Jenny, one of the companies I work with, is because I've been all over this freaking city in different houses and mansions, and not only the upper tier stuff but the lower tier stuff, and I feel like I've driven through so many different neighborhoods.
Maybe this is why you're such a creature of habit.
A lot of
your regular routine.
Well, maybe. No, yeah. Sometimes it is nice to have that, but a lot of those places I wouldn't necessarily get out of the car and explore. But I definitely feel like I've seen a lot of the city and can kind of navigate my way through it. But I'm still surprised on a daily basis. Today I was just driving under another underpass, and I was like, Jesus, look at all that art that I had never come across before. The graffiti and the... So there is another example of a city with so much character. And
do you feel like you see it differently when you're just going to these different places? If you're having to, you go to the shop, you pick up something at 4 in the morning, and you go out and drive. Yeah. That like even though you are seeing these places and you're going to these different locations, do you feel like you're blinded yourself? I'm not like in a negative way, but like that you're numb to it. Like I guess like the difference between looking at something is just because it's in front of you, or looking at something from like a more explorative eye of like questioning or wondering like how your relationship in space with that is and what it could be used for, rather than just being like, oh, that's a pretty cool building, or like that's something I haven't quite seen before.
Yeah, I think that you've got to choose to be aware of that. But I think another great example of how you can do that is just taking an Uber somewhere. I think driving versus being driven somewhere is a huge eye opener. You're like, geez, I've driven this 1,000 times, but you don't see it until you actually choose to see it. So I think that helps. But yeah, I definitely felt that way at the job we worked at together. Granted, it was the same space, but being on the same exact routine, doing the same exact thing. The one nice thing about Jenny is going from like a 4 a.m. deal to like there's other ways to do this too, not just with the catering, but seeing the sunrise in the morning.
Right.
And thinking, seeing the city that way. And even the different people that you run into and their extravagant personalities, things like that, that totally changes your view of a place. I don't know.
That's funny. I was talking about Sam with that because we drove over to West Hollywood. I was getting dropped off at work, and Sam was borrowing my car to go out for a shoot. I said exactly the same thing. It's like, man, like I love riding in a car here because I get to look to the left and the right and really stare at all of the different storefronts. And then, oh, I had no idea that there was a ramen place right next to a smoke shop, right next to a Thai massage parlor. Like I didn't know it was right there. Like, and I'm sure if you Googled like ramen, like yeah, you would find that. But I don't know. It's cool to see all of that stuff because and it's so easy to just put all of that stuff out of your mind's eye when you're just thinking about like, okay, I need to go down Beverly and I need to make sure to get in the right lane because I know that there's not going to be a left-hand turn lane for another, you get all that like mechanical garbage that gets in the way of just like seeing stuff.
I think one of the most eye-opening ones to me though was when we work in the hills, like the Hollywood Hills, and seeing the difference of how you feel being above the city versus being in it. You get why wealth brings you higher.
Sure,
you kind of can see why you would live up there. But just the difference between that little bit of height, it's a whole nother perspective.
It looks so completely different.
It's a whole nother city.
Yeah. You can't see the trash and the dog crap and the
The
shopping carts and the dead bodies from so far away. You only see these nice little glowing, twinkly little lights. It's Tinseltown, baby. That's Hollywood.
Yeah, but
let's get a mansion.
Oh, good idea. Let's just do it, guys.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad we figured.
I'm in.
I want to transition because we kind of hit on a little bit with Michael, you going back home, and I know Craig and I have talked about it, and I'm sure Sam feels this way too. But my topic was going to be about how we feel as artists, kind of choosing a career that brings us away from our homes, our original homes, and our families. I know the three of us being so far from our home states and hometowns, and Sam, it sounds like your parents being in Cape Cod now. How we feel that affects our art, why we feel that we're justified in choosing to be so far away, and how the struggle of that, how that works for a young, struggling artist who could very easily just choose to be at home making a decent amount of money doing whatever they could be doing and celebrating life with your ever-aging family. So just curious your guys' thoughts. I know that's been a struggle, and I'll tell like the first, just being out here 2.5 years now, the first year it was extremely tough, and I compare it to Nashville, but Nashville, because of going to college in Nashville, you're like have this built-in community. I guess we called it the Belmont bubble, but you had that, you were kind of forced into that community, and you didn't have to think about family as much. But being out here for the first year and really struggling and as isolating as the city can be, the thoughts of my grandparents now turning 85, and the health problems, and my parents' surgery, and my brother being in a totally different part of the country, and just trying to validate what we do. And of course, my parents have been very supportive in that. Like, what are you going to sit here and watch us die? You know what I mean? Like, get out there and do something with your life. So.
Oh, I can just see your mom and dad saying that. Oh my gosh, I love it.
But so thankfully, been very supportive. But curious, your guys' experiences on that end. Whoever wants to.
Well, right now in Nashville, I live with two of my brothers, so I'm
you do.
so I'm like bringing my family down there with me. But I mean, I am grateful that my parents are living in a place that they love right now, and they're kind of rediscovering what that's like to have their own lives because all of their kids are out of the house now.
Are they making some pea soup right now? You think? Probably
having pea soup for dinner tonight, and but with them living in a place like that, I want to go back and visit them and hang out there. So so that's nice. But yeah, I mean, I think the older you get, the more you appreciate your family and even if you do have your differences, you know, you kind of like appreciate where you've come from and like all of the support that your parents have given. At least in my case, for sure, like I see them almost more now as like peers than like, or you know, or just people that I can like talk to and like kind of like, you know, just riff with. And so it's cool to see that relationship change. And being away from home is tough, but like you gotta do it for like what you want to pursue, you know.
Right. I find, I'll just jump in one more thing that I was thinking about the other day with my mother and my grandparents now. I find it happens in stages. I've definitely done it with my parents, but then to see it happen at a greater scale with her parents who are much older. But there's this, I remember an acting coach bringing it up, I guess that's why I'm thinking about it, but this distancing that we create with our family or close to loved ones because we have to. And I don't know exactly where I want to go with this, but like that feeling.
It's easier to be like uninvolved than it would be to be involved and far away. Is that what you're saying?
Right, but it's kind of like a subconscious choice that we make, that we have to make to get through. You know what I mean? It's kind of this natural distancing, and I see it with my mother and now her parents when that aging is coming, and you know that they're. This is kind of morbid, but there's this natural. Am I making sense? Maybe somebody can speak to it because I don't know. If
are you saying that it might be better to be detached, even though it's not?
That's the word. Is that
of like intentionally snubbing or slighting somebody or choosing like actively? Oh, I don't want to have a relationship with this person, or I don't want to see them in the same light as I have for the last 23, 24, 25 years of my life, and that. It's easier if you just put up that wall and you say, okay, well, I'm here, you're there. Obviously, the love that I have for you, family members, friends, whatever, that's still there. That's never going to get touched. But it makes it harder if I or you are attached to them in such a way where you're constantly talking to them or you're constantly calling them or checking in. And you know intimately what's going on or what's happening or how people are feeling about certain things. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think it's a healthy detachment. I think it maybe in ways of like you don't share as much as you used to share, or you
just don't see it. You don't see life as it's happening in real time anymore. Right. And so then whenever you talk, are you trying to retcon the reason why you don't call your mom as much and like try to justify that?
That's a bad example.
Is that what you're saying?
That's a bad example because I talk to my mother probably 10 times a day.
Mama hockey.
Anyway, all right, you boys, how do you feel? Has that's influenced you? I mean, how did you feel? You're both a good example, but you going back home for a period of time and kind of jumping back into.
Man, I've got a quote about this too, but I gotta see if I can find it on my
phone. Oh yeah, rip that up.
You guys talk while I find it.
Okay, we'll do it.
And then Craig,
I can talk about
both, but please.
Okay.
For me, it's been tough being out here. I think. I used to live in Nashville and I grew up in Michigan. So in Michigan, it's like an 8-hour car drive to get home, which you can do kind of spontaneously. You can do that on a, mid-Thursday afternoon. You can think, oh, I'll leave now, get home by midnight, and spend a long weekend at home. So here it's tough, but, I've actually talked to my parents a little bit about it. And my mom said, like when she and my dad were young, they got to choose to do their own thing. And they did what they wanted, They actually moved, for my dad's work, they moved about 5 or 6 hours away from family for a job at a time when they couldn't really afford to travel that often. And also having, young kids, it's not very easy. And they were like, we did that then and didn't feel bad. No one made us feel bad about it because that was the choice we had to make. So you should do the same with your career. And I do try to take that to heart. It still can be a challenge because it's easy to think like, people are, especially if you are feeling like down in the dumps about something, it's like, well, everyone's just dying. Like everyone's just getting closer to like, not like either some freak accident happening or just passing away based on old age, like how long are, grandparents, great-grandparents going to stay articulate or, you be able to have those moments with them. So there are times if I'm feeling low where I can get trapped in that headspace. But I think, there's that doesn't necessarily mean that you should all, like Sean said, go home and just everyone should stay in the one town and be with their parents until they pass away, or until you can't can't spend any more physical time with them, because I don't think that would create a fulfilling life for people either, because people need to sometimes go follow what they're passionate about or what they think they're what they're meant to be doing. But yeah, I think it's a tough balance, and it's not something that's easy to always come to peace with, but I guess I try to work on it as much as I can. And I think I'm getting better at it, but it just takes time.
So I found the quote.
What's the quote? Hit us.
It's Nelson Mandela, actually. He said, "There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged to see the ways that you yourself have changed." And I think, at this time in all of our lives, at this stage in our lives, we're almost like constantly changing and growing and developing.
Sure.
But like if you go back to a place that was home and see your parents who are, if they're changing, it's at least at a slower rate, you know, or, your house that you grew up in, probably pretty much the same, and it kind of allows you to see, allows you to look back and see the ways that you've so clearly progressed and changed, and I think it can be really reassuring, actually. It's wow, see how far I've come,
Yeah.
Because a lot of times on a day-to-day basis, you're you're just grinding. You're I want to get, I want to shoot with this person, or I want to get this role, and and sometimes you have things that work out and sometimes you don't, and then it feels like maybe you're a little bit stuck sometimes, moving faster at other times. But if you go back to a place where you were a totally different person, you're wow, I really have done so much and changed so much. So,
and I also wonder if being there all the time would change your appreciation for the people.
Yeah.
Because now whenever I go back home, I really feel like I appreciate family members that I used to just kind of see. You know what I mean? I used to just be like, oh, your aunt this, your uncle that, your cousin this, your cousin that. Now I feel like I'm much more invested.
Yeah.
I think that comes with, you said, we all appreciate our family more as we get older. But I also definitely think that being away from home multiplies that. Big time.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Oh.
Used to say to me.
She's probably... That was her quote? I've never heard that before.
Oh, I don't think it was her, but she used to say it, but I'm sure it's... Oh, okay.
Does anybody notice how much their parents have aged when they go back to see them?
Yeah, that's been one.
I feel like I'm at that point where I'm looking at my parents and I'm just oh, you're not young adults anymore. This is weird. I feel like from the time I was 5 to the time that I was maybe 19 or 20, I always thought that they looked, and they didn't, because I've seen pictures and it was clear, but I don't know, I was I thought you always had that haircut, or I thought you always, wore that, or I thought you always, I don't know, it's very strange, but I'm noticing that now a whole lot more. It's oh yeah, you guys are
Yeah, I think I noticed that
ready
more
for
with
some
my family.
grandkids.
For some grandkids? Okay.
That's what my mom was. She wants grandchildren, but bless her. It's not gonna happen.
Bless her.
So
save that for another podcast.
Yeah, that's another conversation. We gotta talk about that.
Topic number 3 is grandkids. No.
Yeah, that's what I want to chat about. No, I struggle a lot with the whole thing, and obviously for all the reasons that you guys have brought up. But for me, and I think this is reflective of anybody. You guys too. I think that who you are as an artist is so intrinsically linked to where it is that you come from and how it is that you determine how you see things or what you're interested in or what you're passionate about. So one of the things that I don't know, I never really talked about this a whole lot, but I hated the fact that I went to college in Nashville because there was always a mentality, and maybe this is a very petty geographical thing, but there was a stereotype and a stigma that was placed on Memphis by anybody in Tennessee that, there's a shirt about it that says, when you're bad, you get put in the corner, and then there's, Tennessee in the corner, or Memphis in the corner of Tennessee, and it's just,
That's awful.
It's awful, and it's shitty, and it's terrible, but it's true. And so, for me, I didn't really do I almost felt like that I was turning my back on not only like my family and it wasn't like that serious. It's not like my parents were like, you can't go to school there. Or like, it's not like I got like garbage for it from other family members or friends, but I just felt like, it was like, oh man, like I'm going to somewhere that, and I'm saying this as like, I don't feel this way, but what is said about Nashville is like, oh, it's a whole lot nicer, it's cleaner, it's bigger, there's more things, the music scene is better, it's more polished, there's better restaurants, there's better food, drinks, music, like culture, the Tennessee Titans play, like all
Carrie
of this
Underwood.
stuff, yeah, like the famous people, the stars go there. So I felt like it was something that when I left home and went off to Nashville, that it was almost like, oh, well, like, what? Like, you just lived in Memphis for 18 years and then you're going to go off to college somewhere else, and then now, like, I'm out here in LA, which is, like, bigger than both of those places combined, so I feel like that, and I guess how it affects my approach now of, like, where it is that I stand is that I want to make art for Memphis, and I want to make art that is about Memphis, and I want to, ultimately, like, I want to go back to Memphis, and I want to be able to bring whatever limited scope of knowledge or understanding or work or creativity or whatever back to that, because I do believe quite strongly in giving back to that community that I feel like that I wouldn't be here in this place with the mind and that I have if it weren't for the very, very formative experiences. And I miss it a lot, and I don't think that I don't know, it's I don't think it'll ever be the same as how it was that when I like thought about as I was like going through it and living it.
It's tough.
But
Yeah, I moved around during like my high school years. Like I went from living in northern Michigan to living closer to like Ann Arbor and Lansing area, which is a whole totally different vibe. So I have a lot of formative memories with Michigan as a state, but I don't necessarily feel the same urge to like go back and reclaim like the town I was in during high school. Like that means a lot to me for family.
right.
But I wouldn't say that like it really influenced me that much artistically. Though it's where I did do some of my first, major plays and first major like drama camps and stuff, and that's cool. But it was never really like
and that stuff's
a
important.
super strong vibe.
I just think I just mean in terms of like, I mean like the type of art that's being made in Memphis is something that like you'll never get notoriety for it. It'll never get discovered or seen in any sort of large sense. But in the same time, just because it's obscure doesn't make it any less valid or any less important or any less powerful or moving. It just, I don't know, it just feels differently. It's almost like, I think of it almost as like an independent feature film as opposed to like a big blockbuster, overly produced. I mean, it's like, yeah, both of them are movies and it's different ways to do it and it's different structures and blah, 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 blah. But I'm not saying that like Memphis is authentic and everywhere else isn't. It's just, I don't know. It feels like it's a very, very important place. And I just wish that, like, honestly, I wish I was there. I wish I was back in Memphis. I wish that I would have stayed and that I would have been working, somewhere in Theater Memphis or Voices of the South or some of the smaller theater houses that were out there. I don't know. It's weird. It's super strange.
I think you're so 100% right on how formative those years are to what we do. I think it's interesting when I think about that and how I feel like my town pushes me in a different way of like, not excluding family, but I feel like high school and my town in general has pushed me to be motivated to do more because of how negatively impacted I was in the town.
Oh yeah, and you're from upstate New York,
Upstate
right?
New York.
And how far out from NYC?
3.5 hours.
Okay.
But just a town where the arts were slowly stripped away. I should say quickly stripped away, but by the time I'd reached through my 4 years of high school, music, art, everything was just torn away, you know what I mean? And to think how frustrating that was to not even be able to be involved with as many, or not even like knowing that was an option, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also just the culture of trying to be an artist in a town like that where...
How big was that?
Oh, small. I mean, one of the upstate New York in general is very poverty ridden, but I don't know. To be honest. Probably, I want to say under 1,000, but I don't know. I mean, my town was very small. I graduated with 64 kids, and I was
Holy cow.
third in my class, not because of how smart I was, but because of how easy it was to accomplish such a goal.
You will always be second salutatorian in my eyes.
You know, I didn't want to be for one reason. I didn't want to give the speech.
Yes,
You got
you're
nervous.
just outside of the
was
speech
like,
zone.
I just don't want to give that
that's
No,
funny.
you
speech.
don't want to talk about it. Yikes.
But no, I always go back to that, and it's kind of funny how much it stirs up in you, but I haven't thought about it in a while, to be honest. I just got a phone call tonight, which is funny, from a high school friend that I haven't talked to in ages, and it's just funny how much we change right now, how much things are constantly moving, and I'm so thankful that I've hopped around and gotten the experiences. But I feel like those little things that I learned coming up through middle school and high school are still what push me and motivate me to, maybe not for all the right reasons,
Right.
but that's what stirs me. And so looking back at it from a psychological standpoint, it's really interesting to see, like, gosh, you're really molded by...
So you're saying you don't want to go back?
No, I
You
don't
don't
want to
ever
go back,
want to
and I
go back
also...
to a place where you were just starving for art,
Right.
or the ability to make something,
Right.
or the platform or the chance to create.
My hometown felt similar to
But-
what you explained, Sean.
What would be nice is to give back to the community like that, to say, here's these opportunities for all the
Fuck
people.
them. Fuck those upstate hillbillies. They'll never make it out.
So
You're gonna die there, kid.
Boy, and I would have too. It's so funny the choices you make, but yeah. Anyway, that's interesting. It's just interesting how much our personal lives really. I mean, that goes without saying, but affect what we do. Sometimes even if we don't want to admit how much they do.
I
The
think we have
the
a-
iPad has died.
Yeah, I saw that it was on 10%, so we'll go for another 20 minutes or so. Maybe 15.
I think we've etched out that topic pretty well.
Yeah. Does anyone have an upbeat topic they want to close us out on, or what are we feeling?
What do you want to talk about, Sam? Let's put you on the spot. You got anything that you've been kicking around the old head? I mean, I can't imagine driving down the coast and just like what you were thinking about in terms of it all, with like, you know,
Well, he was
what you were
thinking
doing
about
and
Slim
what.
Jims.
I did eat a lot of Slim Jims.
How many
for
Slim
sure.
Jims did you eat?
I think I had at
Ballpark.
least 20.
How big? Like the
They're
ones?
more like,
like
no,
the
they're more like
Slims.
the snack size, like fun size Slim Jim. Like, but
Short Slims.
size doesn't matter. It's still Slim.
It's all about the amount of sodium.
Keep it Christian now. Keep it holy.
Yeah, honestly, I was just like, okay, the West Coast makes the rest of the country kind of like look like shit.
You can say it.
Like, honestly,
Coast.
West Coast, best
Best
coast.
Coast?
Man,
Okay.
it's just like endless miles of like jaw dropping, like beautiful like mountains just crashing into the ocean.
Especially
And,
like Oregon. Oregon is
I mean,
gorgeous.
Oregon coast, Washington coast,
Yeah.
Big Sur in California, that whole area is just like amazing. And it was cool to see the transition from like northern Washington, where it was still very snowy and wintry, and then getting down here where you've got, you know, the bluest blue ocean, palm trees, sun, like every day. And I mean,
So funny.
it was a beautiful trip. It really was. And it made me really appreciate the natural beauty of the country and the world that we live in. And I definitely felt like just lucky to be able to do it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool too because like a lot of the spots that we hit are like kind of popular sort of spots on the internet these days, and so it was just like seeing them in real life absolutely blows seeing it on your phone out of the water, you know. It's like it's so much better. There's like no matter how good of a photographer you are, there's just like certain spots there's no way that you're going to be able to like capture the feeling of seeing it, you know.
Did you feel like that your relationship with your art and what it is that you're doing, did you feel that shift at all as you were going through the trip? Or do you feel like you still generally feel... Because I don't feel like you're the type of artist that... Like, I don't think that you make things because they're popular, or that you take pictures of things because you know them to be popular. And I think that, I mean, I feel like that's one of the things about photography now and Instagram and this world of like...
That is tough. I mean, the thing is, there's popular spots are popular spots for a reason, you know?
Right.
Like, you go to them and you're like, wow, this deserves to be photographed, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Right, yeah.
And everyone puts their own touch on it, you know? But Instagram has had an effect on, like, the places that people go because, like, certain places are just a little bit more amazing than others. Like, that's not to say that 1 mile of the coast is really intrinsically better than another. It's just like certain things photograph so well, and when you see it, you're like, okay, I know why. You know, you get there and like.
So does that change your perspective, knowing, like, point A and point B? Here's one thing that looks like this, and then here's the other thing that looks like this. For you as a photographer, I'm curious: do you value one thing over the other because it is better to photograph? Or can you still enjoy seeing something that isn't as, you know... Like, I think about it in terms of acting, like, I feel like it's super hard for actors to watch a really bad movie because you see it and you're just like, who mic'd this? Like, why didn't you mix it? Or what, like, what's the lighting doing or the acting? Like, it's... And I'm not saying that, like, oh, it's time being an actor. Like,
well, we're also spoiled,
but you know what I mean.
We're used to seeing, like... We're all used to seeing the best now.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's like, you're seeing the best
true.
photos, you're seeing the best movies, you're seeing the Academy Award nominees, you're hearing the records that were nominated for Album of the Year, so sometimes you just, like, you're so thrown off.
I'm just curious, like, how do you see the world, man? How do you even look at it with, like, that?
Yeah, I mean, there were some places where I didn't even take any pictures, though. Like, I just wanted to see it.
I was going to ask you how often you find yourself in that position where you just
like
want to view something.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best picture is the one that you don't take.
Totally.
I'm gonna get that tattooed.
It's more important. Well, you said to me one time when we were in the Smokies, it's more important to see than to be seen, and that's always stuck with me because our world is so focused on like showing people stuff. Like, this is where I've been, this is what I've done. And rather than just like actually truly seeing things, you know, and I wish I had done it, but I wanted to bring, and this is gonna sound like super hipstery, but like I wanted to bring a film camera on the trip, just because those moments, like if you have like 30 frames on a roll of film, like you're gonna be a lot more intentional about what you take, you know, pictures of.
Or you can't see it.
And you can't see it until
you
you get it developed, maybe like weeks later.
Right.
You know? So in
I
that
wish
case,
you had. That would have been so
I know.
cool.
If I do it again, I definitely will. Like that kind of road trip though is something that I could definitely do again and see.
Right.
Like
something
everything different. Yeah. Totally. Or even just driving up instead of driving down, I feel like would be a different.
Right.
You know, because you're on like the opposite side of the road.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a totally different angle, you know.
Yeah.
So,
how do you feel? This might be a stretch of a question, but how do you feel your exhaustion along the trip influenced how maybe motivated you were to take photos, or how precise you were with what you were doing? Did it affect it all or not?
I mean, honestly, we went at a pretty like you know, relaxed pace. Like we didn't do any like sunrise shoots. And the way that we planned out the driving portions is we were mostly driving during the day when the lighting isn't as good for photography. It's still nice to see. But then we would stop in the afternoon, usually, from like 3 to sundown, which was around 6 most days. And that would be kind of like our more exploring, like, photography focused time. So, like, honestly, our pace was, like I said, pretty relaxed. So I didn't feel like we were, like, pushed to our, like, physical limits as much. We did cover a lot of ground, but we did it over a long enough period of time to where we could, like, really, like, feel rested and, like, not like, you know, we were just on the run the whole time.
Right. Good.
But yeah, and it gave us time to, like, dig into each, like, location that we went to a little bit more too. You know, waiting a little bit longer to get, like, that one shot that I really wanted to get, rather than just being like, I gotta take, like, 5 pictures and then we gotta get back in the car. You know?
Right.
So that was nice to be able to have that time.
How do you handle the currency that has been created because of the internet and how things are structured and tiered in terms of, like, I guess this is kind of tying back to what we were talking about earlier, but the fact of, like, oh, somebody has a photo that has, like, 600,000 likes, and that's, like, you got my mom and Mrs. Fairbanks over here taking a photo that gets like 27.
Yeah.
How does that affect what it is that you do? I'm just curious, as, like, an artist, like, does that determine how you see things?
As a photographer, it's pretty hard to, at least this type of stuff that I've been doing more recently, it's pretty hard to separate yourself entirely from, like, Instagram and social media, because it is such a easy way to share your work, you know, and join that community. But at some point you just have to, like, get it into your head that, like, those numbers aren't your validation, you know. That's not what you can sort of measure your self-worth on, or the worth of your work, because basically what Instagram has become is a platform where the most popular things rise to the top. Not necessarily the best things or the newest things or the most original things, but, like, the things that are most universally appealing.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, oftentimes the things that will affect me deepest are things that are, like, catered towards me, you know? And they strike me on a level that's very personal, you know? And you honestly don't see a lot of that on Instagram. So I don't think that, like, Instagram is, like, a necessarily artistic platform. It's a platform for marketing and business and sharing work and becoming a part of a community, maybe, which is great, because you can meet a lot of, like, amazing people. You can, you know, ask questions of photographers that live halfway across the world, and by literally just, like, you know, sliding into the DMs, and, you know, that ability to get connected to people is really cool. But in terms of actual, like, I mean, art, like, what you're talking about, I don't really see that much of it on Instagram.
It's funny because you forget it's social media.
Yeah.
Like, it's meant to connect people, and it's meant, like, just to be a community.
Yeah.
It's not a portfolio.
It can be. It's, like, it's definitely, like, a way to share the type of work that you're capable of doing.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, a photo that has more universal appeal will do better. It will perform better than one that maybe means something more to you just because,
of course,
you know,
the subject matter, where it is. No, I think it's just so it's just crazy to think about how, because, like, I've thought about this, like, I'm not really a photographer, but I've thought, like, why would I post this on my Instagram? Like, I don't need to take and not, like, I don't just live life, but I mean, like, I was like, this isn't a good enough picture to share with people. Like, this isn't up to the quality or the standards of, like, or it's not what somebody would want to see, or it's not something that somebody else would be excited about. But it's like, oh, well, I was really, like, I'm pretty excited about,
Yeah.
you know.
That's the point that you have to get to, though, I think, is if you like it, share it or post it, you know? Like, if it means something to you, and that's really where I'm trying to get to, you know? It's like trying to post more, like, real moments and things that are original and not like what everyone else is posting, you know? And that doesn't mean don't go to, like, the popular spots and take pictures there. Just don't. You just
take
see it.
a picture of the people taking the
Maybe.
picture and post them. And
Totally.
Do you feel a lot of pressure whenever you post something to Instagram, being like a part of? I mean, I'm sure most of your friends, like you've mentioned, are into photography, and obviously you want to represent yourself and what you do well.
Yeah, I mean, if a post doesn't perform well, it's definitely disappointing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it can be very frustrating sometimes, and I mean, I question, like, was it the photo? Was it something that I could have done differently?
Sure.
Is it just the algorithm?
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But I just am trying, like, really all the time to just, like, think less about that and just
Sure.
like put good work out there, you know. That's what it's about, really, is just keep making good work that you feel good about. And if it's commercial, that's okay. If it's more artistic, that's great. But just as long as it still feels like right to you, I think that's what's important, you know. And put it out there. Like, that's the only way people are going to see it.
We've discussed this a couple times on the podcast, being actors, about being in a place where we have to balance between choosing work to get out of our side jobs to pay the bills, to get to that point where we're able to choose the work that we want to do, versus you know, the balance of just choosing work that we really just want to do for ourselves. And so it's interesting to see how that would apply to you too. I guess it's probably pretty similar, but I think we all three deal with that struggle on a
the parallels are crazy. And
daily
just hearing
basis.
like how you can have like one way of going about it, which seems to be more authentic, I would say, not necessarily right or wrong, but then you have other ways that are pretty inauthentic, and I'm hearing that and I'm like, man, that is all of this town in a nutshell. Like, you've got so many people that are going about one thing in a pretty inauthentic way, and then you've got so many other people that are going at it in an authentic way, and it's like, it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about that, because I feel like that's really the only separation between work that's like good, and going back to your point on quality of making something that's good work, is that it is authentic, that it's, you have a, you know, I think, you know, when you watch a stand-up special that is phenomenal, it's because it's authentic, it's funny because it's true, and because it touches on something that's so much deeper, and it has a finger on the pulse of the entire culture, civilization. It's not the zeitgeist.
Attractive the comedian is.
I think
play into a Hollywood stereotype.
I think of talking about music and Instagram recently too. I think it's so interesting how much money really can buy with anything. But learning recently that even Spotify plays you can buy, Instagram likes, obviously, and followers, and I mean, it's so tough to even gauge
who really has an authentic audience.
Yeah, even with, you know, it's such a game in that way.
Right, 10,000 followers, but only like 62 likes on a post. What does that mean?
And then you could even buy those, you know, buy more likes if you want. I mean, it's kind of, it works, but it's also, and you know, you could very, very easily do that with a photo that means a lot to you, is very genuine, and then from there you buy those likes, you buy those follows, and boom, it hits, and that's how you do. But how do you? Mind-boggling. I don't know. It's just so strange how it all works.
Yeah.
We're just right in the middle of the internet, really.
We most certainly are in careers that are very affected by the, I don't know, the visual of it and the appeal.
But I think that we're also
Presentation,
changing the way that we see and interpret and interact, not with each other and people around although that is something, but like with the work itself. And I don't think anybody has any idea what that's going to mean until like 30 or 50 years ago. I mean, the way that I see it, it's like, this is like electric this is electricity to
absolutely.
like a guitar. It's like it changes the way that it sounds. It changes the tone. It changes the discussion. It changes the type of music that's made, or why it's being written, or what it's doing, or who it's reaching, or the target. I mean, it's all of that stuff is right now currently going through that sort of blender, and hopefully we have a really, really nice organic kale smoothie waiting for us at the end, but it might just be a big old bucket of poop.
We were talking about this, my girlfriend and I, the Black Mirror episode. I can't remember, maybe season 3. It's one of the episodes in there, but it's just pushing this whole conversation to the limits of what it would be looking ahead, maybe 10 or 15 years, and what we could be looking at. With.
Oh, is that the augmented reality one?
No, I'm talking. There's a like one about how you're visually seeing how many likes on a daily basis somebody's giving your personality, not just what you're showing,
sure.
but literally looking at somebody
Isn't that
visually seeing.
That's augmented reality.
Maybe that's the one. I don't know. I'm thinking there's so many.
There's no way I need to get into that. My head would blow up.
That would be awful.
I'd end up in.
You're having a conversation with someone, and I can just see
Disapprove.
the approval you're getting.
Yeah.
But very, very
Speed
real
dating
to.
would die.
Or maybe it'd even be more effective. Yeah. You just instantly see, bad. I see it it's not working.
I mean, in a way, isn't that kind of like what using the apps is, though? I mean, people are just making snap decisions.
I don't mean about I mean, like...
But I guess if you could,
mean
analyze someone's personality, like a Yelp review.
Yeah, you just see it and you're just like, nah, it's not this important.
I found him
3.5 stars.
prickly and quiet. Ridiculous. Okay, I have a final quick question for you, Sam, before we wrap this up.
What's the first? What would you say to God at the?
Yeah. So like life, what's it about?
If
No.
there is a heaven above,
And
God opens the pearly gates.
What do
What do you think he will say to you when he does that?
I always liked it. Do you guys remember?
Come on in.
Do you guys ever read
Water's
the
great.
Far Side? The Far Side
Yeah.
One
I
of
love these comics.
the best comic strips I ever saw was it's supposed to be like Saint Peter at the pearly gates, and he's standing on a cloud, and there's an iron gate behind him. Someone's walking up just in regular street clothes, and he goes, "Okay, no one gets in here without answering this basic question. A train leaves Denver heading for Seattle at 45 miles per hour." And the thing is like a math phobic's like nightmare over.
Oh yes.
So what is what's like a pet peeve of Instagram that you have? Or like what's an inside scoop on what's a no or something that you see and you're just like
honestly, the latest sort of way that I've seen to kind of like boost likes or engagement are these like sort of engagement pods, they call them, where people will start group messages with people who post like similar content, and there's like a sort of agreement that everyone will go and like and comment on everyone's photos right after they're posted. And it just seems to me like it's sort of like falsely inflating like
Wow.
Yeah.
That was over my head.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that you could even do that.
Yeah, so basically
I didn't know you could group message on Instagram. What the heck am I doing?
it's all these like higher like sort of like, I mean, it's like pages that already have like a decent sized following.
Right.
And then you just are in this agreement where you're like liking and commenting on everyone's photos. And I was in a couple for a while, and I mean, with like 15 people is the max number that you can have in a direct message. That means you're like liking and commenting on basically like 14 people's photos throughout the day, because people generally try and post like once a day. And it was like honestly a lot of time invested, even though you're just leaving like one like and comment, but you kind of have to be always like tuned in, because people are posting.
And every time
like,
you see it,
the
it
day.
kind of grabs your attention. You're like, oh, I gotta.
Right. So I ended up getting out of it just because I was like, I don't like how much I'm having to like tune in for this.
Interesting.
Jeez.
But now you start to see like certain accounts who like it's just kind of like all the same people are commenting on all the same people's posts. You know, it's like this like elite group who's kind of like, you know, they're getting comments in exchange for comments and likes in exchange for likes, and it's just sort of like it just it takes away all of like the actual like authentic, like
Interaction.
I'm liking
yeah.
this because I like it. You know, so
Jeez.
frustrating part of Instagram right now, but that is happening because apparently with the latest update of the Instagram algorithm, it now like comments and engagement will boost it up,
Yeah,
and so more people will see it.
Yep.
The further away from high school I get, the more I realize that life is just all high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Like, those, like, social structures and the dynamics and the hierarchies and the tiers, it's like, you can call it something else, but, I mean, it's like, let's get the 15 most popular people in school together and just be like, oh yeah, everything that we say and do and think and feel, that's the coolest thing. And, like,
Yeah.
That's
the
true.
most important. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Ugh.
We're just a bunch of lizards, a little bunch of goons running around here just trying
Sam,
to...
you little lizard.
Only in
Cool.
second grade
Running
too.
around. Yikes.
I go jump in
Oh.
All
traffic.
right, let's wrap
sad.
this up. This has been the Empty Theater Show. Thanks for watching, guys. You can find us on emptytheater.org. Now we're gonna plug things after we just had a sort of somber conversation about social media.
Buy more Coca-Cola.
Buy more Coca-Cola.
Makes you happy.
Drive a Ford. Shout out to Michigan.
America.
Sam, what's your Instagram? Where can the people find you?
Sam_Frawley.
Booyah.
Like, comment, and you'll have one in return.
Yeah. There you go. That's how we roll.
Cool.
Thanks for watching, guys.